A pleasant afternoon to you, dear viewers of High Television. It's a pleasure to have your company yet again for another edition of the program Nature's Corner, which comes on the airwaves of High Television every Thursday as from 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. And of course, when we come here every time, we ensure that we tell you what is making news within the environmental sphere. We try as much as possible to connect you with nature and ensure that all of you out there are environmental conscious. And again, as every time when we come on this program, we reiterate to you that the environment is not a far-fetched idea. It's not something out of space. It's something that we live in. The farmlands where you cultivate your crops is the environment. Where you build your house is the environment. And if you don't take care of the environment, it comes back to affect us in several ways through floods, landslides, drought, and all of that. Thank you for joining us on this edition of the program Nature's Corner. And of course, I am your humble host, Jabi Kitty. We'll take on this jingle break. When we come back, we go into a topic of conversation. And just as a clue before we come back, we're talking about environment and filmmaking today. Do not go anywhere. Stay tuned. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. If you're just joining us, we're just getting started, so you've not missed anything. And we are just beginning with the program Nature's Corner, which is aired right here on the corridors of High Television. If you are a fervent listener or fervent viewer of the program, then you know that whenever we come here, the first things first, we give you news as to what we tell you what is making news in the Cameroon, Africa, and the world at large as concerns to the environment. But today we are going on something a little bit different, similar but a little bit different. We are giving you a feature kind of news as we take you to Bokova, where we meet students of Government High School Bokova and see what they are doing to champion for the environment. Right here today on the program, we shall be focusing on youth who are creating positive impact on the environment. And from filmmaking, before we get to filmmaking, first we talk about young students who are championing the cause of environmental advocacy through their environmental club known as Eco Warriors. They are students of Government High School Bokova, and they have been doing marvelous work in that sphere, and their enthusiasm has been pushing them to even educate members of the public. Let's go meet students of Government High School Bokova in this video. These are secondary school students of Government High School Bokova, Boya. They are championing the cause of environmental advocacy through an environmental club as they style themselves to be Eco Warriors. Eco Bella Therese is the president of the Eco Warriors Club.
We meet once a week, that's every Wednesday from 2 p.m. When we meet, we have to discuss on how to be able to carry this club, that's the Eco Warriors, to a global platform, because we don't just want to end in school, we want to carry it out there.
Through this club, they have been able to advocate for environmental preservation and policy change with various activities that they have organized.
We have learned how to be able to nurse tree plants, and also how to be able to bring out our vegetable garden. And also we had to distribute trash cans to be able to help our environment, because we believe that when the environment is in good shape, or when the environment is good, we are also in good health. If we damage the environment, then also our health will be damaged. There was a program we had in school, which was storytelling program, which we had to invite some of the notables and also Voice of Nature in collaboration with Eco Warriors in school year. It was really nice as some of the notables had to tell us a lot about our community, and also the trees, and also even totems.
These kids under the banner of Eco Warriors are guided and mentored by the non-profit environmental institution Voice of Nature VONAD.
We are training them and putting them on the front lines of conservation actions, on the front line of climate actions. So the issue is we mentor them and they independently take the actions by themselves to grow the knowledge in them so that they can be able to transmit it in their community. And many of them may end up taking up career in the area of agriculture, climate action, species conservation as a result of this action.
As the world grapples with the urgent need for environmental conservation, the Eco Warriors serve as a shining example of the power of youth activism in community impact. They also prove that age is no barrier to making a difference in the fight against climate change and environmental degradation. Welcome back from GHS Bokova. We hope that these students do inspire you to also create change wherever you find yourself in your community, because they have shown that age is not barrier towards impacting their community, towards fighting for environmental conservation. So you too can join in no matter what space you find yourself in, whether educated or uneducated, whether you are a businessman, market seller, or you are a professor. Now, the little you contribute can go a long way, keeping your environment clean. Do not litter plastics just about. And yesterday we are talking about filmmaking and environmental conservation. What is the role of filmmakers in conserving the environment? Coincidentally, just before I drafted the topic for today's conversation, I was in one group, and one person in this group was lamenting on the fact that most movies today are limited, or they focus mostly on sex and dating. And this person was wondering if there are no other aspects in the society to talk about. And that's why I was tempted to also say, okay, let's see how we can also raise the bar and try to throw light on other filmmakers and movies that have been focusing on other aspects of society apart from just, dating. And so we have this phenomenal lady whom we've scouted around, and we've chosen just the best for you today to share her story and her journey to inspire you to also do something. She is an amazing documentary filmmaker, an award-winning, I should add, as she just recently won the award of Best Documentary Filmmaker at the Cameroon International Film Festival, this 2024 edition. She is also a student of the Performing and Visual Art Department in the University of Buea. She's a fellow with the Nature's Environment and Wildlife Filmmakers Youth in South Africa. She's also part of the communication and storytelling team for the African Marine Mammal Conservation AMCO, an NGO based in Buea. And she's also the former president of the Commonwealth Student Club, University of Buea. You will be hearing these big titles and you think that she's one large individual, but she is small as me, small but mighty. No other person than Precious Ashunganya. Welcome, Precious.
Hi, Javi. Thank you for having me.
How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you.
It's the first time we're having you here on the program. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, and I'm very excited.
I'm tempted to ask you, how is the ocean today?
I wish I knew. Buea doesn't have the ocean.
Oh, sadly so.
Yeah, but I'm very sure in Limbe it must be very cool and nice.
Speaking of oceans, I learned you just coming from South Africa, where you've had, I think, a dive lab to explore the ocean beneath. Tell us, how was the trip there in South Africa, and what did you bring for us back from SA?
Well, I come with good news first off, because I was very much inspired. I mean, the good news was that it really opened my eyes about how beautiful the oceans are. When we were in South Africa, like you said, we were learning how to dive. And the process, it's a make and break process. Like learning how to dive, being in that space, learning the skills, and most importantly, you being in an atmosphere that you're not even used to. Because we as people, as humans, we are just used to land, we're terrestrial mammals. But when you are in the water, you have that fear that that's not your world, and you can't breathe with your nostrils like you'd normally do on land. And so you have to constantly tell your brain that, okay, this is a different world. Use your mouth to breathe and always keep breathing. You know, the good thing with diving is you go down there with oxygen. Yeah, and so we dived in the Indian Ocean, and it was such an amazing experience. It was at the coast of Sotwana Bay. The life there, when you get inside the water, it's so beautiful. The corals, the fishes, different colors, mantis. We saw a turtle. I was so amazed seeing a turtle feeding in its natural habitat.
Yeah.
It was so beautiful. And I got stung by jellyfish too. Some little jellyfish at the surface of the water, but they're just tiny stings. So yeah, it wasn't very hurtful, but such an amazing experience. And it's when you see that, when you leave that, you want to share it. You want to make people know that this is our oceans. We should be down there as much as often. We should see how beautiful it is, and then no one will be telling us to protect it. We will know that we have to just care for it.
Okay, and I think Precious has just let us know that the ocean is not so mystical as we may think it to be. We cannot deny that the mystical aspect of the ocean, but it's something that we can also explore, and she has explored it herself, gone down beneath the waters to see how life is down there. You're talking about sharing these stories. Recently, you've been onto a hook, I should call it.
Yeah.
You have been telling ocean stories. We heard about Promises Wish and a whole lot of other ocean stories that you have
we
told.
featured you on Ocean Stories. We have an episode of Jackie, our journalist, our eco journalist on oceans, and it was so beautiful telling your story. And
Guys, you need to see me.
Yeah.
Well, now let's get back to your ocean stories. You just won an award for Promises Wish.
Yes.
Now we've seen a lot of these ocean stories that you've told. What is a drive behind these particular hook that you find yourself in?
Okay, so when I first went down to South Africa before to learn how to dive, and this actually is my second attempt, and then I succeeded. But my first attempt, like, I was crazy. Like, I didn't know how to swim at all, and so I was rather put on swimming classes. And, you know, learning how to swim was a very big hustle. The water was cold. There was the fatigue that was settling in. You know, I drank a lot of pool water. And all of that sometimes was very discouraging sometimes. But, you know, that was a Youth Dive Lab. And, you know, Youth Dive Labs it's a program that Youth runs yearly, bringing marine scientists, storytellers, people from coastal communities to just come and learn how to dive so that they can see what we should be saving, and so that storytellers can tell the old stories of our oceans. And, you know, that means that being there, I got to see a lot of marine scientists, storytellers across Africa. And ahead of that trip, I didn't think that, you know, our oceans are stuff that is worth seeing. I mean, it gives me the fish I need to eat, right? But that was it. And I wasn't very much curious about it. And the role it plays in protecting our planet, it's very fundamental. And, you know, the excitement that these storytellers and scientists embodied, it made me so curious. And I was speaking with them, I was asking them questions, even seeing you, you know, because we were together during that period, even seeing you doing your dive training as well. You were so brave, and I was like, okay, wow, this is beautiful. And I just wanted to share that. And it just started with telling your story, because I think your story, and I was doing your story and Promises story Wish at the same time, Promises Wish at the same time. And so it started with one story, and then it led to another story, because right now there are 4 episodes on YouTube. And all of that, the drive was just simply to share, because I got interested. I started caring because people around me during that period were sharing about the ocean. They were open to telling me why we should care, how it's beautiful. And I was already inspired without even seeing it yet. And I feel like if this is a beautiful peer pressure, if I can put it like that. So why not share with people that are not here in South Africa with me? And then that's how it started. Okay.
And so you've mentioned that other people's stories inspired you to study the ocean stories, but your connection with the ocean. But I want to ask you, as you're telling the stories about the ocean, what is your own personal connection with the ocean?
So my personal connection with the ocean, as I started with ocean stories, that's a very beautiful question, because that's something I'm still trying to figure out, and it has a great deal with kind of, if I can put it, my mission in conservation.
Yeah.
I just really want to understand the place of African conservation, you know, what it looks like when we talk about conservation. I want to understand how we as Africans, we would conserve our natural resources, how we would rather like conserve our marine protected areas, because we as Africans, we conserve by coexisting with nature, not alienating ourselves from nature, not creating national parks and driving everybody.
It's not a water pad.
Yeah, it's not a water pad, because you can't conserve like that. We can't conserve like that. When you do that, you make us not to care about something that we always cared about. And so like I'm trying to figure, and I feel like when I find out how we would conserve, how we would rather conserve our oceans, not necessarily the way, you know, Western ways of conserving have told us, but the way we would rather have done it, if
our
not
own local style.
Yeah, if not of colonization setting in at some point in our history, then I feel like when I'll have those answers, it would be so much clearer to me. Like, okay, wow, this is my goal. This is me finding out my place in the ocean. You get, so that's where I'm driving at with the ocean stories relentlessly.
Imagine what will happen when she has those answers, because now she doesn't have the answers, but we're saying something great already. Then it means if you have the answers, boom,
right,
the world will explode.
And I can't wait to share that moment.
I've gone through some of your videos on YouTube, some of your short films, I should say. Actually, not limited to just videos. Going through those videos those short films on YouTube, rather, I got to understand that before you began telling ocean or conservation stories, you were just doing short films in general. And I think we'd like to understand or to know how that journey metamorphosed into you telling conservation stories, from you just being a filmmaker to being an environmental filmmaker.
Okay, so how do I answer this question without telling a huge part of my life? But how it all started getting into conservation stories was when, so there was this time I was just in my room, you know, scrolling through social media, and I fell on this post by Laura Onyama that if you're a nature filmmaker, if you're this, apply for this Youth Producers Lab at CAMIF, at the Cameroon International Film Festival, submit a story and pitch it, and you receive grants. And okay, I saw that, I just left it at that. Okay, that's great. I would apply. You know that thing when you do, you keep a tab open, that you will come back to
come back just before the deadline.
Right? And then I had, because I'm also part of a film training program run by Anure Munembong, who is my mentor. And so my colleagues in that film program also saw that, and they shared it in the group, and then we had a meeting as well, and we were talking about it, and we were like, guys, this is something we should apply, right? Okay, and so I applied for that program, and my story was about Waza National Park. And so I just remembered this national park because I was in primary school, and because then I didn't really know, much about national parks and in conservation. I was into climate activism, plastic pollution.
But the wildlife side of it.
Yeah, but the wildlife side of it, the biodiversity side of it wasn't something I was very versed in. And then I was like, what story can I pitch? I am not inspired. I don't know what the hell to pitch. And then I remember that when I was a child, there was this national park I heard in class, and I was just curious about the park. I never forgot the name of the park because I felt like it was a very funny name, Waza. Who names a place Waza? And then, growing up then, that moment came, and I just searched about this place, and I saw, some things on Google that I could pitch about. And then the Cameroon International Film Festival, I was lucky to be selected amongst the winner of that grant, and then that's where my whole journey started. It just felt like an alignment, like a click, right? Yeah. Because I was into kind of climate activism. I really wanted to make a difference, understand what it is for Africans to be able to protect nature, but not in a way that the Western tell us, because it's biased in a lot of ways.
It does not reflect our local realities.
Exactly. And so when coming into conservation storytelling, I was scared at some point that, because conservation was all about people should stop eating pangolins, stop killing animals and eating, stop. There were a lot of stops.
You felt like it was an order.
Right? And I just didn't want to be preaching something I don't really understand.
Yeah.
Because, for example, I ate maybe, let me say I ate some kind of fish, and if you come one day and tell me, stop eating that fish, you know, and so there's a lot of things I just wanted to understand, like, why should people stop eating this? Like, Africans have always lived on certain kind of behavior with nature, and that has not been threatened before. So if it's threatened today, it's not because we are eating it. It's another pressure doing it. So you can't be asking us to stop doing something that's not necessarily causing the problem. And so being part of NUV, winning that grant, was a learning process. I was learning how I could be a conservation storyteller, how I want to tell my own stories, what kind of stories I want to tell, you know, where the stories, like, and all of that inspired me, and it just really felt like an alignment, like this was my purpose in storytelling.
Okay, and so now that we have that purpose in storytelling, you've been telling conservation stories, ocean stories, a little bit right, a little bit. You know, I'm still curious how you got in contact with that friend of yours, that little bit.
Oh my God, it was dying. I'm almost calling it a he. It was dying. I know you will not understand it till you watch the video.
A little insect.
Yeah, you know, I've always been of the notion that there's stories everywhere. Like, everyone has a story. Everything has a story. You just have to look at it. And that particular afternoon, like, you know, I just decided to leave my laptop because I was working a lot and I just wanted to take some space. And I noticed that beetle too, as before. And then still that beetle was in the water and it was just swimming. Like, what the hell? Like, bro, just die. And no, it wasn't. It was just swimming. And then I was like, okay, this is a story. That
is worth telling.
Because I mean, this is beautiful. And then I just took my camera, I saved it, and you know, and then it became what it is on YouTube.
So basically, we can find stories everywhere. And when we talk about even filmmaking for the environmental conservation, as she rightly highlighted, that it's not far-fetched. You must not go into the Wata National Park or the Sambisa Forest before you have a story. Just at the backyard or at the swimming pool, you can find a little bit of a story on it.
A mosquito?
Something about. Ladies and gentlemen, you're still on to the program Nature's Corner right here over High Television, and we have on board Precious Ashunganya, who is taking us through her filmmaking journey as an environmental filmmaker. Now, what has been the hallmark for you as a filmmaker? What do you say is a hallmark? Like, since you've been through or you've been telling all of these stories, what do you think is the achievement you're so much proud of that is affecting, that is impacting the community? What is the hallmark?
Okay, like the hallmark, like what that I'm yet to reach, or that I have already reached?
You've been telling all these stories throughout your journey as an environmental filmmaker. What is that achievement that you've recorded that you feel like, okay, this has been the it that is not only impacting you but also impacting the community around?
Oh, okay. So, well, that I think there are a lot of little moments that have really shaped my journey. I don't know if there's that particular one, but because, like, for me, everything has just been from one thing, a stepping stone. And without this, the foundation, the next one wouldn't have come, and the next one. So all of them have been very important. But I think me being able to, you know, find my purpose in telling stories have been really it, and which was when I joined NUV. Because joining NUV has really helped me to refocus, to refocus on the importance of telling our conservation stories and why we need to be telling it, because there's really a lack of our stories out there, and stories told by us. Because obviously, you would see maybe stories of Africa, but not necessarily told by us.
Yeah.
And so for me, you know, just finding out that passion, and it's something I can't shake it off. Like, you know, now I'm just like, I need to do something to make people see ocean stories.
And
I need to tell more ocean stories. I need to. So it's crazy. I can't stop thinking about just telling conservation stories, and I think that was it.
We hope you don't stop thinking about it. And so right now, let's go meet Precious outside. We have Precious inside. Let's have a sneak peek of some of the ocean stories that she tells and what it means to her in this video that she has compiled for us. And the technical team is ready. We meet Precious outside and have a sneak peek, a little view. We have a little view of ocean stories.
I'd never thought of diving into the ocean. Growing up, we often heard mystic stories of weird creatures like Mami Wata who lived there. So when the opportunity came, I took it as a challenge to demystify the ocean, beginning with myself.
Ocean stories, I would say, began as a serendipitous occurrence. I was at my first new dive lab, and no, I wasn't learning how to dive because I swim like a rock, so I was rather taking swim lessons. But in that space, I got exposed to see African storytellers and marine scientists so excited to explore the depths of the ocean, to learn how to dive and be able to, see the ocean up close. And I was intrigued. And with my phone, one story led to another. Growing up in a landlocked area, the ocean had never really spoken to me except when I craved a plate of fresh fish or good seafood. But exposed to a ground where I could witness the ocean's beauty and threads through other people's experiences transformed me. It empowered me as a filmmaker. The shores are a canvas of footprints, but the ocean is a blank slate. Where I come from, I haven't heard many stories about our oceans narrated through films. In my country, like in many other places, the ocean is a source of strength for many communities and at the center of several stories and folklores. And yet, the area least ventured by filmmakers. Ocean Stories now serves as a beacon. It illuminates the collective quest that we all share in accessing and protecting our oceans. Our oceans bear immense pressure and are often overexploited, especially in Africa. By telling the story, we weave a common thread, potentially inspiring greater access and protection. When it comes to protecting the ocean, it should be a collective mission that involves everyone. And so, informed participation is essential. Whether you are a young coastal dweller, a journalist, a marine scientist, or a filmmaker, or simply someone who cares, our narratives hold the power to finally give the ocean a voice.
Don't you just fall in love with Precious? But we're hoping that you do not just fall in love with her, you also fall in love with what she's doing, and you see it as a point of necessity to also chip in and be a force to reckon with and contribute just something little, anything you can contribute towards preserving the environment, preserving the ocean, and all of that. So ladies and gentlemen, you're still on to the program Nature's Corner right here over High Television with me, Jabi Kitty. And we still have the phenomenal Precious with us, documentary filmmaker, award-winning documentary filmmaker. Now, I'm tempted to ask our Precious, you do documentary filmmaking, conservation, and just like the story I was telling before the program started, that somebody was complaining that most of the films we see these days, it seems like it's just tilted towards dating, sex, like if it's not that, maybe it will not sell. So as a documentary filmmaker who has gone through the ropes of environmental conservation, what will you tell other filmmakers is the role that we as filmmakers, as communicators, play in conserving the environment?
I think, like, storytelling is very important. Like, it's fundamental to our everyday lives. I think even like Hollywood, the master the art of storytelling so much that they can shape so many narratives, and those narratives have shaped the way we see our world and the way we perceive ourselves. So storytelling, it's a very fundamental job. It's very important. It touches souls and hearts. And if you could tell a story that speaks to communities and that tells their stories, reflects their struggles in their day-to-day lives and their ecosystem and all of that, you don't know how much good you're doing. You're showing the world a broader picture of that community. And that's so much powerful. And we need more of our stories on mainstream media.
True.
Stories like about our natural resources, which is very much lacking. You know, I've always grown up hearing that Cameroon is Africa in miniature. You know,
We hear that often.
yeah, we hear that often, but sometimes just from the few opportunities I've had to travel, and I'm sharing that with people, you know, and they're like, "Oh, Cameroon,
Is it really Africa's in miniature?
like, you know." And it's so true, though. It's so true. It's just so sad that we've not said it enough.
We've not
Like,
exposed it.
right? Yeah, we've not told those stories enough.
It's not just within us.
Within us, and it remains like a single story, like, you know, so it's not something that people have heard enough about. But yeah, Cameroon is Africa in miniature, I'm telling you now. But you know, we need to tell those stories. We have a lot of natural resources, we have a lot of biodiversity, and we have a lot of communities speaking so many indigenous languages. The cultures in Cameroon is so outstanding, and you know, and all of that is so important in conservation. But when we don't tell the stories, when we don't tell the stories that could advocate for what African conservation could be, you know, how do we stop making conservation bias for Africa? How do we start making people to care about our natural resources? You know, and how do you change a story? You change
The storyteller.
like Noel Coke would say,
Yeah.
right? So we need, this is a plea.
So it means it is not just about telling the story. It's also about telling the story that reflects us.
Exactly. Because we have seen and heard a lot of stories that don't necessarily reflect us. You know, that say it from the perspectives of what they see, but not the reality that is. And who could tell your story better than yourself, right?
True.
So we need to be true to the stories, to the people whose stories we're telling. We need to tell the stories. If not, we will misrepresent ourselves. We will keep on misrepresenting ourselves, and no one would finally know who we truly
True. As a filmmaker who is focused on telling environmental stories, what are some of the challenges you must have encountered in the field that you think needs to be addressed so as to give a leeway for others to also join the field and tell better stories?
Okay. Some of the challenges, I think, budget is one thing. It cuts across every domain, every film, you know, genre of filmmaking. But one challenge really, would sometimes, you know, the structure, the bureaucracies kind of filmmaking in Cameroon in itself can be sometimes very challenging. The bureaucracy and everything
that you have to follow.
Yes,
administrative bottleneck.
Yeah, and sometimes it's like you don't really know whose door to knock at when you're like trying to when you're like going to the government or administrative
to follow some legal procedures.
Because I remember when I was kind of trying to find permits to shoot in Waza, because Waza it's a story I'm doing this year. Waza is found in the far north region of Cameroon, and there's the Boko Haram issue. So obviously you need like permits from the Ministry of Forestry, right? And then, but when you go to the Ministry of Forestry, they're like, maybe you should go to Arts and Culture as well and get a permit.
And maybe tourism as well.
Yes, and then when you go to Arts and Culture, they say, no, we give the permits to people who are foreigners. Like, I heard that, and it was crazy. And then I was like, no, it's not possible. Like, how can I need a permit to shoot in my country?
And you're giving it to foreigners.
Right? And then it's like in that office, they didn't really know where that was. And I still had to work around in the office, and then someone showed me, okay, this is the right office you should knock to. Yeah, so all of that, sometimes it doesn't really feel like it's kind of very well structured, but I think with time it's something that we can work around. But it would be very great, you know, if we have this all figured out already up there in the government, because it feels like what we're doing is serious, like they take it seriously and they see the need for us to improve on our storytelling. But I think it's also, we see improvements because we see that just recently in primary schools, they can now teach, in secondary schools,
They can now
they have a
teach
cinematography program.
I was really glad to hear that.
And yeah, that's beautiful. That's because if I was in secondary school and I saw that, I would have probably...
You'd have picked on it immediately.
Because in secondary school, I was probably like doodling art or science, just because I didn't see maybe what else, and I ended up doing science, but that's in story for another day.
I think the Ministry of Secondary Education, including cinematography into the curriculum, is just to tell us that maybe there is a future in cinematography and filmmaking, because I think if one other challenge should be that parents not really see it as something you should do. Did you face any hindrance or challenge with your family accepting that, okay, this is filmmaking? And I remember I think you've left from the health science domain to the artistic domain. How did your family receive that?
Okay. So, well, yeah, like you said, there are kind of challenges with families accepting that storytelling, children should go into filmmaking and stuff like that. I think sometimes some parents have their reasons. Maybe sometimes the job also has its own shady sides, like every other job. But in my case, my parents, it didn't come out, like, they didn't appreciate it on the first go. My father was, you can go for whatever field you want to go in. So when I went for science, obviously he was very supportive of the fact that I was going for science. My mother wanted me to be a medical doctor. I passed FHS. I was in medical school studying medical laboratory science. But then I didn't really feel like that was something I wanted to do, because I feel like since I was born, storytelling was in me.
It was part of you.
Yeah, I was probably like 8 years old when I was writing my first book that I never got to publish. The Battle of Michaela. Yeah. Right? And sometimes in the house, I would be with my aunties and I would be like, I had this show, Men on Men Issues. I would just be interviewing my aunties.
Wow.
Everyone thought I'll probably be a journalist, you know.
You'd have joined us, you know.
Yeah, I was like the president of the journalism club one time in my secondary school. That was what made me so popular, you know. But I didn't want to do journalism. I don't know, but I just wanted to tell stories. Journalism is a beautiful job. Yeah, I knew that I was telling the news, right? But it was too serious. I felt like it was too serious. Sit and say news, and it's great, but I want to tell stories, right? At some point, there were a lot of things I wanted to be, like children. We change
every time.
But I knew that it was, every time that I changed was all about storytelling. And, you know, but then I ended up doing science, and because I was good in arts and science. So if you're good in arts and science, just pick the science. You know, because doctors make way more money than artists.
So we are told.
Yeah, right. And everybody was saying it. And in school, you're like, scientists are the intelligent people, artists are the dull people. So if you're into so there was all of that kind of pressure from what you hear from the society, and you know, and I was like, okay, I don't want to be broke in the future, so I'm going to be a doctor. And but then coming into the university, when I had my first phone, it was an iPhone 5S. I just started
telling stories again.
Yeah. And I was having this challenge I was doing on my social media, 30 weeks of film, and I would just do single character short films. I remember I used my last 6,000 and went and bought some bulbs, you know, crazy me, and, you know, making lights in my room to tell those stories. And then I was like, this is beautiful. I love it. And then at the Cameroon International Film Festival, I met my mentor. I met the man,
Mr. Honoré.
Yeah, and then he kept on working with me on story. And I was like, and one day, I started by telling my colleagues at Influence Arts that I will take PVA, I will drop medicine. And they were like, they thought it was a joke. Until they saw me next year in the PVA
and you did
WhatsApp group. And they were like, oh my God, Precious. You know, and then with my parents, of course, like, it was something that I was telling them I want to do film. So it wasn't like a harsh decision, like I'm dropping it.
It didn't come up as a shock.
Yeah, they saw that I was persistent on this, but they were like, no, you can't. Finish with medicine. You know, are you sure this is what you want to do? Do you know how do artists eat these days? You know, this kind of saying. But I was like, you know, if you're passionate about something, you can make it work. And then when I won the grant at CAMIF, I think, you know, that was one of the things that
the hallmark.
Yeah, that was making me feel like, okay, this is it. Maybe I should drop now, but I still waited a bit. And then at one point, I had that call with my father, and he was like, after a lot of talking, he was like,
okay, Precious. Let's go.
Yeah, and today they're very happy and they're there for me. And I just love how my mother and my father are very supportive, pushing me, advising me, and yeah, it's
all right. Let's talk about another issue about filmmaking. Especially within the Cameroonian space, where so much is said about how filmmakers do films, but it ends just within the corridors of filmmakers. Just the filmmakers themselves get to watch them. Maybe the intended audience do not get to really watch this film. You were handling something as pertinent as environmental conservation, which is geared towards changing behavioral patterns and policies. Can you say that your films have reached the intended audience, or if not, how can we maneuver this to ensure that our films get visibility, not just within us, the environmental people or the filmmakers, but to the community at large?
Yeah, that's such a beautiful question, because with conservation storytelling, it's not a film that you can just go and throw on Netflix. I know some filmmakers do that, when you put in a lot of money, you probably just want to leave it on Netflix. I don't know, people do that. But for me, I just feel like, why do you tell people's story, especially a documentary? Like, you're literally telling someone's life, right? So you want to bring it out there to that person's community, so that people can see that, hey, this is my story. Maybe you could be inspired. And so for me, there's that need. You have to take it out there. You have to find ways. Distribution is something it's something we always talk about in filmmaking, from fiction to non-fiction. Yeah, to non-fiction. It's always something we keep on talking about, especially in Cameroon. I hear that a lot, and so I just keep thinking about it. And then that's why I'm doing on the 5th of June, ahead of World Oceans Day. I'm thinking of doing an open air screening in the community, because I've been working with kids around that area to kind of storytelling, just reading storytelling books with them, making them know what storytelling is and guiding them through what storytelling could be, and using that as a tool for environmental advocacy, and then bringing that in that community is very significant for me, and will be for those kids as well. And right now, I am still kind of working my way to distribution. To answer your question, if I am doing that already, I wouldn't say I am doing that perfectly. I'm still figuring that out. I am still starting the whole process of distribution. Right now, the most I have distributed has been on my YouTube, because anyone, if you have internet and you have a phone, you can have YouTube, you can watch it there. Even
and it's there for a long time.
Yeah, even without having a Google, a YouTube account, you can watch the films.
But it brings now the possibility of, what about those without the social media platforms? We have some communities like that. And even those who may have the social media platforms but do not have the data or see it interesting enough to watch on YouTube.
Yeah, so you have to go down to the community, organize community screenings. If this community is, most of them are not, using phones and all of that, it's okay. It's not necessarily a challenge. See it as an opportunity to reach out in a different way. Go down to those communities, screen those films there, and do as much screening as you need to. You could create programs around your film in that community, take it to other communities so that other people can see it. Of course, it's a budget question. I know some people looking at this are like, it's a budget question, but the same way as you're determined to find money to do the film in the first place, find money to share it with people.
To the people. Yeah. You mentioned that you have something planned that you're working towards to have the community watch your film. If it's settled, maybe you can just briefly indicate that to our audience.
Yes. So June 8th is World Oceans Day.
June 8th? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, June 8th is World Oceans Day. So ahead of June 8th, I was just thinking, there's Ocean Stories. Ocean Stories is a documentary series that aims at telling the stories of African marine scientists, African storytellers, and coastal indigenous people's quest to access and protect the oceans of Africa. And what way to celebrate, World Oceans Day than to share in our stories. And I just wanted to do it in this kind of, classic way. Sit around a bonfire and someone's telling you a story.
Go back to old folklore days.
I love that. I really love that, So, and I wanted to do it, and that's why we kind of want to do it in an open air space, no closed walls, another way of calling people, so that just come, you see something shining on the road and you hear sounds, just come and find out what it is and stay there and listen to these ocean stories and watch it and share with us how you think we can better tell ocean stories.
So you say it's at 6 p.m.
Yeah,
somewhere around Malingo?
6 p.m. Yes, it's going to be FHS. Behind FHS, the football field just around FHS, that's where we're going to be holding it. Some people call the area Palm City, so it's around the place.
All right, Precious, we are almost wrapping up. We've heard so much from you, quite inspiring. Hopefully the audience are inspired as well. What more should we be expecting from Precious Ashinganya?
I'm very unpredictable. So yeah, just follow me on my social media and just be shocked at anything that's coming your way, because sometimes I just drop a video of a beetle, like Crazy Me, or an ocean stories. I'm working on a documentary series on Mwanza National Park, and I just really love collaborating and just speaking with people about what conservation could be like, because not one person has the answer.
Yes,
you have to speak with people to get their point of view, and then you get inspired. So please connect with me on my social medias, Precious Ash on all my social medias, my YouTube as well. And yeah, if you need my contact, break the channel.
I'm selling it. Economy is hard. You get it for free. All right, let's take on a jingle break, ladies and gentlemen. You're still on to the program Nature's Corner. We'll take on a jingle break, and when we'll come back, we'll speak more with Precious. Welcome back, dear viewers. It has been a pleasure to have your company right from the start of the program till now. Of course, we'll not be here to talk without you being there to listen and to watch. We hope that the story of Precious Ashinganya thus inspire you to do something. Of course, filmmaking is not just something relegated to the corridors, to the background. It's not something that we have to stop our children from doing because it does not pay the bills. Some people are proven to be different, like Precious. And even as we're doing filmmaking, we can be constructive and do constructive storytelling, and why not tell stories about the environment? And of course, just before we take leave of our Precious, we want to hear the last words from you, concluding words from you to the people out there.
Yeah, okay. So I'm very happy that I'm on this platform. It means a lot for me to be able to share what I'm doing with Ocean Stories. And honestly, storytelling takes a village. And so please, if you're a filmmaker, if you're thinking of becoming a filmmaker, you know what? Don't even overthink it. Just use your phone, or whatever you're watching this in. Just use your phone and look around you. And if you ask me, what does it take to tell a story, I'll answer, it takes a story. So, that's it. And you can be that person. Anybody can be a storyteller. And it's so important for us to tell our conservation stories. Talk about it.
All right, anybody can be a storyteller, and it's important for us to tell our conservation stories. I know I said that we shall be having concluding words from Precious, but we will not let her go without playing a game with her, as we always do on the program. I'm about to get you hooked, Precious. So I know that if I ask you things concerning the ocean, you'll be quick to answer. So I'm taking you a little bit out of the ocean. I'm taking you to the wildlife space on land. So do you know this game? I don't know if you know it, but when we were little, we used to play this game. Zinza, Zinza, on my little hands go.
Yeah, it's
Kakaberry. If you please.
Yeah. Oh,
for example.
bring it on.
Okay, let's go. Zinza, Zinza, on my little hands go. Kakaberry. If you please. For example, name of land white animals. Bequit, tiger.
Bequit, lion.
Bequit, elephant.
Bequit, giraffe.
Bequit, hippopotamus.
Bequit, rhino.
Bequit.
Yeah, I'm your girl.
Okay. Maybe I should have done ocean animals instead.
Maybe, yeah.
All right, then. Thank you very much, Precious, for coming.
Thank you.
On the program. Hopefully, with this game, a child in the house can know some of the names of the animals we have. Precious said rhino, elephants, and all of that. I should have mentioned giraffe. I don't know why I went one side. All right, it's been a pleasure to have your company, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for staying glued to High Television. We offer hearts to you for giving us your company, and thank you to Precious for coming on air.
Thank you for having me.
We hope you continue to inspire many persons out there and continue to champion the cause of environmental conservation through filmmaking. It is on this note that I sign off, and I try to pack my bags because the technical team is already signaling to me. Technical expertise came in from Tam Food Clothing. We've had moral support of Aisha Mbeng, Rita Mafani, Sonita Nguni, and Daniel Ikami and Julia. And the supervision came from the editor-in-chief, Alizi Kamilike, and general supervision from the manager of High Television, Ayok Eno Humphrey. My name is Jabi Kitsi. I am your presenter. I look forward to having your company again next week, Thursday, 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. Meantime, stay glued to High Television to watch other interesting programs that we bring your way. Meantime, bye-bye. Do have a nice day.